The signing of the peace treaty at Versailles signaled the official end of World War I, optimistically called the war to end all wars. But even during World War I, President Woodrow Wilson had feared the war was more about power and territory than peace.
Is the present war a struggle for a just and secure peace, or only for a new balance of powers?
One of the goals of the treaty was to break up the four empires of Europe. 9 countries were given new boundaries and independence. As a result of the remapping, Germany lost territory to its surrounding countries. The treaty demanded Germany accept full blame for World War I and pay huge sums of money called reparations to the victorious nations. Germany was also stripped of much of its military power and forced to demilitarize the area near the border of France, known as the Rhineland. The intention of the Treaty of Versailles was largely to punish Germany for World War I, but also to create new democracies and self-determination in Europe. But huge war debts, hunger, and unemployment made it difficult for some democracies to flourish. In the end, the treaty that was meant to secure a lasting peace for Europe had, in effect, laid the groundwork for war. In Russian, Stalin means man of steel. The Soviet Union's communist leader Joseph Stalin certainly lived up to his name. During his rule, the Soviet Union achieved unprecedented power, but at the cost of freedom for its people. He launched a brutal transformation of Soviet agriculture through collectivization, forcibly taking over privately owned land, creating a system of state-owned farms. He also took control of manufacturing and production, creating huge government-controlled industries. Stalin created a police state in which anyone who disagreed with the government's policies could be arrested and sent to labor camps in Siberia. In 1930, Stalin began the Big Purge. So-called enemies of the people were arrested and executed. Historians estimate between 8 to 13 million people were killed. By 1939, Stalin had firmly established a totalitarian communist government with complete control over its citizens. All opposition was crushed. In Italy, similar events unfolded shortly after World War I. In 1919, dictator Benito Mussolini, Il Duce, or the Chief as he was called, began his rise to power. Mussolini became popular because he promised Italians he would rebuild Italy and create a new Roman Empire. Mussolini created a political movement called fascism, and in 1921 he became a member of the Italian parliament. In 1922, he and thousands of his fascist supporters, known as the Black Shirts, marched into Rome, demanding the Italian king give him power to lead the government. Not wanting to start a civil war, the king conceded. Mussolini was sworn in as prime minister in October. Like Stalin, Mussolini crushed any and all opposition to his totalitarian regime. At the end of World War I, Adolf Hitler was just another jobless soldier wandering around Germany. In 1919, he joined a small political party called the National Socialist German Worker, the Nazi Party. Like communists in the Soviet Union and fascists in Italy, the Nazis practiced an extreme form of nationalism, believing that the interests of their country were more important than any others, even more important than personal rights and freedoms. Hitler quickly rose to power to become the Nazi Party's leader, or Führer. In his 2-volume book Mein Kampf, My Struggle in English, Hitler spelled out his Nazi beliefs. He sought to unite all German-speaking people into a national state. He also maintained that the German or Aryan race was superior to all others. Hitler thought his master race deserved more land, even if it meant taking it by force. The economic hardships in Germany in the early 1930s helped Hitler and the Nazi Party gain power. In 1932, roughly 6 million Germans were jobless, and Hitler's promise to restore German pride and stature in the world appealed to them. As head of the Nazi Party, Hitler was appointed German Chancellor in January 1933. He quickly put an end to the faltering Weimar democracy and established his Third Reich, a totalitarian regime with himself as dictator. Hitler capitalized on hate and racism, blaming Jews for the economic problems plaguing Germany. Jews were ousted from government positions and certain professions, and barred from the use of public facilities. They were isolated and forced to wear a yellow Star of David. The discrimination escalated in November of 1938. Rampaging mobs attacked Jews in the street, in their homes, and at their places of work and worship. Nearly 100 Jews were killed, more than 1,000 synagogues burned, and over 7,000 Jewish businesses were destroyed. This came to be called Kristallnacht, or Night of Broken Glass. Jewish property was seized, and Jews, gypsies, and other groups considered unfit for Hitler's master race were sent to concentration camps. Over the course of the war, 6 million Jews and 5 million others were murdered by the Nazis. This became known as the Holocaust. The extent of the horrors of the Nazi concentration camps would not be fully realized until the war ended in 1945. Though the young Emperor Hirohito led Japan, the true power during the 1930s was in the hands of the Japanese military. The country was gripped in a frenzy of nationalism, and, like Germany and Italy, desired more land and resources for its growing population. In a surprise attack, September 1931, Japan invaded the Chinese province of Manchuria. Japan saw Manchuria as the first step in its desire for domination of China. The League of Nations, established to help keep peace after World War I, condemned Japan's invasion, but did nothing to stop it. In turn, Japan simply quit the League. By 1936, the clouds of war encircled the globe. Germany and Italy formed an alliance they described as an axis, around which Europe would revolve. 4 years later, Japan would join the Axis powers, and together, the three countries pledged to aid each other in the event of attack. The extreme political philosophies that emerged during these troubled times appealed to many people worn down by economic hardship. But the overly patriotic beliefs of nationalism, the acceptance of totalitarianism, the militant and racist fascist beliefs of the Nazis, and the communist doctrines of state-controlled property and government all contributed to a worldwide war.